for Christmas. Thank you very much.
Scandalous behaviour.
We now come to the 10-minute rule bill motion. Sir Darren Henry.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to make provision about shared parental leave and pay in certain cases where one or both of a child's parents has died and for connected purposes. Mr Deputy Speaker, I want to start my remarks today by telling you about Aaron's story. I was visited at a constituency surgery in Broxtowe in February of this year by my constituent Aaron Horsey, who is in the gallery today with his family. Aaron had his 3-week-old son Tim in his arms. His wife Bernadette sadly passed away in childbirth. Bernadette would no doubt have been the most loving, dedicated mother who also had ambitious plans for continuing a long career in the NHS. She's missed tremendously by her loved ones. During this time, whilst grieving the passing of his wife and looking after his newborn son Tim, Aaron discovered he was not entitled to shared parental leave. This put the plan Aaron had put in place with his wife Bernadette into jeopardy. Luckily, in Aaron's case, he worked for an incredibly understanding employer who gave him the leave he needed to look after Tim, but others are not so lucky. This bill is attempting to ensure that there is a right to leave and pay for individuals, such as Aaron, in the case of spouse passing away. This right would be there regardless of the length of time a person had been with their employer. This bill will not only help employees in these circumstances, but also businesses who wish to give leave. I have, during this process of securing a 10-minute rule bill, been contacted by other individuals around the UK with similar stories to Aaron. It is my belief that we must work to close this gap and ensure that leave and pay is made available for those in circumstances such as Aaron's. Although I believe it is important to state that this is not an issue that affects thousands of people across the country, but for those it does affect, the consequences are huge. Changing the law to ensure that leave and pay is available to those who find themselves in situations such as Aaron will ensure that no other parent is faced with the devastating position of raising a child, grieving, and doing so in the shadow of avoidable job insecurity. Mr Deputy Speaker, I'll now address what the bill will seek to do. Parental leave in the UK is something we should be proud of. Since the Employment Rights Act of 1996 and the Maternity and Parental Leave Regulations 1999, entitlement and access to maternity leave and pay have been very straightforward. On a similar note, entitlement to paternity leave or shared parental leave, though more limited, access is also fairly straightforward. Shared parental leave was introduced in 2015. When it was introduced, the government stated that it wished to move away from the current old-fashioned and inflexible arrangements and create a new, more equal system which allows both parents to keep a strong link to their workplace. Shared parental leave was established to allow parents access to their workplace and their family. That is precisely what is being prevented in cases such as Aaron's. It seems in cases such as this that people for whom shared parental leave was created to help are the ones often missing out. When faced with this life-altering set of circumstances, Aaron was confronted with having to cope with the challenges of being a new parent, the prospect of new job insecurity, and all while in the midst of extraordinary grief. Mr Deputy Speaker, that is more than many of us could handle. Mr Deputy Speaker, this bill is not contentious. It simply seeks to allow individuals the right to, under circumstances beyond their control, take leave and be with their child. As I have mentioned previously, it is also not a bill that will affect the vast amount of our population. It affects a small number of our society who need the help of this government and their employers. Aaron brought to my attention there are circumstances in the event of a death of a child's parent during childbirth in which the surviving partner is not entitled to parental leave. To be currently eligible for shared parental leave and statutory shared parental pay, both parents must share responsibility for the child at birth and meet work and pay criteria. As the law stands, for the mother's partner to take shared parental leave and shared parental pay, the mother must have been working for at least 26 weeks out of the 66 weeks before the week the baby's due, and have earned at least £390 in total across any of the 13 of the 66 weeks. The mother's partner must have been employed continuously by the same employer for at least 26 weeks by the end of the 15th week before the due date. They must also stay with the same employer until they start their shared parental leave. Practically speaking, a surviving partner could be entitled to take shared parental leave, but they would not get to meet the criteria I've just mentioned. Aaron did not. This means that under this requirement, many will not qualify for shared parental leave and pay. This bill seeks to correct this. It seeks to find a day one right for a parent to access both leave and pay. It seeks to ensure employees who have to raise a child following the death of their partner will not be left without support. As a father myself, I know that being a parent to a newborn is a huge undertaking at the best of times. I cannot imagine being in that position whilst facing the fact that your partner has died during birth. I want to ensure that people like Aaron are never in the position of being without support. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I now come to the argument as to why this bill is needed. I truly hope that no one has to find themselves in the position that Aaron did, unable to share the beginning of Tim's life with his loving wife. But it is the aim of this bill that for those who do, they do not find themselves without the law behind them. I'd like to thank all other members of Parliament who have been supportive of this bill. I have received overwhelming cross-party support on this issue. This bill is not party political. It seeks to make a real impact to those in our society who find themselves, through no fault of their own, in tragic circumstances. As well as receiving support from my fellow colleagues, I have received a statement of concern from the Prime Minister. I've also met with the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, as well as the Department's Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State, who I see on the front bench, in order to discuss these much-needed changes. My last thanks I would like to go to Aaron. Whilst dealing with the hardship I have set out today, Aaron was not thinking of himself, but of how he can make sure no one in the future finds himself in his position. He is a truly selfless individual. I would like to put on record my awe at his bravery and resilience that he has shown and continues to show. Mr. Deputy Speaker, there is a gap in our law. The gap is meaning that parents are facing impossible circumstances. This gap must be closed. It is the responsibility of us all to ensure that we make the tragic circumstances of losing a loved one while raising a child is made that tiny bit easier by ensuring that employment is one thing that need not cause further turmoil. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I ask with much hope that this bill be given due consideration to be passed into law. Although the change may seem small, the impact to the life of an individual could be insurmountable. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
The question is that the honourable gentleman have leave to bring in the bill. As many of that opinion say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. Who will prepare and bring in the bill?
Jim Shannon, Tracy Crouch, Sally Ann Hart, Brendan Clark-Smith, Philip Dunn, Vera Hobhouse, Pauline Latham, Tom Randall, Stella Creasy, Dr. Philippa Whitford, Sarah Champion and myself, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Darren Henry.
Shared Parental Leave and Pay Bereavement Bill.
Second reading what day?
Friday the 20th of January 2023.
Friday, the 20th of January 2023.